Morning.
Our agricultural subcommittee is going to come to order and conduct business for the county and trying to determine who will be the architect for our agricultural research center. First, what we'd like to do is I'd like to ask Greg if he would give us the invocation. If you could go ahead and do that.
Okay. Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for your bountiful blessings. Lord, you know certain parts of this county need rain terribly, and we ask, Lord, that you bring the nourishing rains to replenish our crops and bless our farmers and our economy in general. Now give us the wisdom to deliberate in a wise manner this morning to make decisions that would be beneficial to all. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Aycock, you listen to the pledge, please.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our plans for today are we've narrowed it down to five folks from 5 different groups, rolling up folks, presentations will be approximately an hour in length. Of course, we don't affect the presentations, but let's move along as quickly as we can. And if the board, if you'll wait till after the presentations are made to ask questions, perhaps that'll save us a bit of time. And our media folks in the back have asked that after each presentation, we'll take a 10-minute break so that they can change the video back there. So, starting this morning, I think we have the first group is Oakley Collier. And then let me back up just a minute. We'll be giving ranking everybody, and at the end of the day, we'll give that to Ms. Woods over there, and she'll tabulate the scores. And at the next commissioners meeting, I will make a recommendation to the full board. And we do have some of our commissioners out here today. We've got Wayne Aycock, the chair, Ray Mayo, Joe Daughtery, and Joe Gurley, soon to be a commissioner July 1. So with that, welcome.
Thank you. We appreciate it. We're really excited about being here today. We're Oakley Collier Architects, and what we'd like to do today is introduce our team, tell you a little bit about projects we've been involved with, then our process and approach to this project, and share with you some of our experiences and how they relate to elements of your program, which, by the way, you guys have done a really excellent job in putting together the preliminary program. Oakley Collier Architects, we're located in Rocky Mount. We are a 12-person staff. We've been in business for 25 years. Ann Collier and myself are the principals of the firm. Eastern North Carolina is our backyard. Our primary focus is Eastern North Carolina, east of I-95. So we pride ourselves on working in this part of the country and do quite a lot of work here. Our presentation today we'll go over several of the elements and how we present the project. The first piece is the team, and every consultant that we bring to the table is a consultant that we have a long-term relationship with. They're not new faces to us. They are tried and true. We all understand how we work as a team. I will be the architect of record. Ann Collier would be our lead in our programming and early design. David Griffin handles our project management. Frankie Joyner, our construction administration. Our other members of the team would be Stewart Engineering for structural engineering, and we've worked with Stewart for the past 20 years. And if Willie was here today, he'd tell you that the first project they ever had was our project. I'd like to introduce Chris Hilt. It was CLH, and let her tell you a little bit of her firm.
My name is Christine Hill. I'm a landscape
Cut
architect.
to the mic, please.
My name is Christine Hill, and I'm a landscape architect and president of CLH Design, located in Cary. We're a civil engineering landscape architecture firm of 15 people, and we've been around for 21 years. And I hope the reason that Oakley Collier chose us for this, and we do have a strong working relationship with them, is that we're nationally recognized for our environmental education. We've designed over 300 schools across North Carolina, 5 projects in Wayne County recently. And our passion is taking best management practices, outreach, and sustainability, putting them on school sites so that when you open your car door and go through the front doors of the school, you understand that outreach, best management, and sustainability. We think that applies very much to your project. Thank you.
Bill?
Good morning. I'm Bill Smith. I'm the president of Stanford White. We're a mechanical and electrical engineering firm. I happen to be a mechanical engineer. We've been in business almost 40 years, and we have a staff of 24 individuals. We work exclusively in North Carolina, probably most prominently in eastern North Carolina. We've designed ag centers before for Chowan County. We've done a lot of plant science research work, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. And we'd be honored to be part of this team and selected for this project.
An important part of our team is the faces that you see today are the faces that you will work with if we're fortunate enough to be selected. So we're not here to sell you on our firms. We're here to roll up our sleeves and go to work. So we are the team. Our team experience, this is collective and individual projects where we've got quite a lot of experience in a lot of different avenues and project types. These we felt were pertinent to what you're trying to do here in Wayne County, which I failed to mention early on. This is a really significant project, not just for Wayne County, but eastern North Carolina. And if we're certainly fortunate enough to be selected, it would be an extremely significant project for us as well.
Talk a little bit about sustainable design and our philosophy on that. We are LEED accredited professionals within each firm, collectively and individually. We understand the principles behind sustainable design, and basically our philosophy is we feel that's just really good design. Saving money, energy efficiency does not have to cost extreme dollars to do that, and so we apply those principles regardless of LEED certification or any other tags like that. We just apply those same principles to every project and look at the options before just assuming that you want a particular piece. We want to explore a lot of different options on how to create that energy efficiency and give you like Chris said, an education forum, for some good practices that are common to eastern North Carolina.
Building information modeling is the process we use to really generate your project. It's a digital representation of your building and your facility. To us, it helps us throughout the whole project for coordination between us, our engineers. Early on in the process, the benefit to you as the owner is visualization. From day one, we start in the modeling process. It helps convey the plans, elevations, renderings. Then it gives you digital forms to start distributing amongst your different departments so you can build that consensus as a team. This moves with us all the way through the project on into CA, so it's just an excellent tool for keeping track of quantities of materials, areas, space. Helps us, I guess, with optimizing our collaboration. Our engineers are as current as we are as we move through the process. As things change, everybody's on the same page as we move through it. End of the day, what that gets you is excellent construction drawings. End of the day, we're going out to the contractor. They need to be as clear on what the intent is as your vision, and hopefully at the end, we all end up there with what you had in mind. Good.
And a facet of the BIM, the modeling program, is a component called conflict resolution. What that does is help during the detailing process, work out the conflicts between the trades, helps with what the contractors like to call scope gap. So when we actually get to the field, there's minimal change order opportunities for the contractors in the field. Now, in the construction administration piece, as we move out of the bidding and negotiation, I'll become the quarterback for that particular piece of it. All of our team members, the MEP, the structural, the civil, they have their own CA guys, just like me, that come to the field, work with the contractor. We have pre-installation meetings with the subs, the vendors, the installers, and the owner's representative on site. This open dialogue that moves around as we move through the process cuts down on change order opportunities for the contractor as well. And in the end, what you wind up with is the product that you set forth from the beginning to have, and gets you the best bang for your buck.
The budget is always important, and as you guys have defined, this budget's a little over $12 million for the project. We have a very good track record at maintaining clients' budgets, and equally as important is designing the working solution that achieves their goal. As David mentioned about our BIM and clarity of documents, We have over the years developed a very strong following of very competent contractors. And of course, the contractors can make us look very good or very bad depending on the quality of the GC that's selected, and we'll talk about that a little later on. But the clarity of our documents also gets back to that thing that everybody dislikes, change orders. And historically, our projects have had 1% or less in change orders. Doesn't mean owners don't change their mind and add other pieces to the project, but as far as omissions and errors within the scope, we control that very, very tightly. And at the end of the day, we fight hard to make sure that you don't spend any more money than you had to get the product that you were supposed to have. So we try to create solutions that get the most bang for your buck. That's what we've learned in Eastern North Carolina, and we know how all the trades work.
We want to start, told you a little bit of generalities about our process in our firm, but I want to start more in depth on your project. As Tim said earlier, I will be the principal that's more heavily involved in the programming, the early conceptual design, although he is involved from day one through. We back each other up in this role. By my input and my expertise in the programming stage and the early conceptual design, I follow that through the whole project from the back door, if you will, to make sure that those goals that we establish early are followed through for the whole design, even into construction, close out, the whole process. But so my main role in programming is to sit down with you as the main committee, user groups, and get your goals and dreams and ideas and visions. As Tim said, great start. Very, very good start. We understand this is the tool that you created to give us the head start on what we're doing today. And we've actually highlighted and read this in depth, tried to learn as much as I can about the process now. What we don't know is how this creation came about. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel, because this is good work done, but we want to sit down with the user groups and understand how this came to be. Short, quick, initial session, goal-oriented, task-oriented, getting to the next step of design. As we do that, we will ask you questions. Just in general, walk me through your day, each user group. Show me kind of in general where you are now, and let's think about what you do, using this as our foundation, and then come up with conceptual designs that we will input from the beginning into the BIM program, as David talked about. That creates an immediate three-dimensional concept for you to view. So it's not just a flat piece of paper we can walk through and look and see exactly how it feels in the space, as well as just a flat plan on a piece of paper. We will look at future growth, some things we didn't see. There was some future growth planned for in here, but we want to make sure we address that, as well as site considerations and the whole project as a whole. What this chart, we really love this chart because what I've just told you about our first step and our kickoff and our early stages of preliminary design, that has the most effect on the end dollars. If we do that piece well for you, then the end dollars, we have the most effect to keep those at the budget and within budget. The further you get in the stream, down the stream with us understanding what your concept is and what this really means, the less impact we have on the budget. So we want to do that first piece correct to give you the best budget dollars.
It's good.
I think Chris is going to tell you a little bit of the site.
14 years ago, we were hired by NC State's College of Veterinary Medicine to do a land use plan and a master plan. And the reason I bring it up is I think it applies very much to your site. At that time, what was very important is that the College of Veterinary Medicine was making a transition from being a very rural part of Raleigh and Wake County to making that transition into becoming more suburban. And when I look in context to Cherry Hospital, Cherry Farm, and O'Berry Farm, I think that the principles that we looked at 14 years ago still very, very much apply to this site. We'll be looking at what we can preserve, what helps exemplify the characteristics of that site over the past 150 years. We will definitely look at livestock and how they've had an impact and whether we still have them here. We're also going to be looking at, there's a wonderful old pecan grove. When you look across at O'Berry Farm, what is wonderful is it is a very typical facility of that time, and it's the most wonderful characteristic is you have the oak trees and the pecans, then you have a little bit of parking, but the most dominant thing are the buildings behind the trees. Those are characteristics that we think are very important. We also work a lot in eastern North Carolina. We know all about farm ditches. We also know that a lot of them are protected in wetlands now. So we work very, very well with Diener and the Corps in looking at ways that we can use and apply best management practices. I think this is telling your story. I think this is a USDA story. I think it's a Wayne County agriculture story. So any way that we can apply those to the site and teach a very good lesson to farmers and how to deal with those different challenges and regulations, we'll work with that.
This is the massing plan that came from your study, which Steve Allen with Solutions for Local Government. We've collaborated with him on other projects and currently collaborating with him for Carter County in a facilities master plan. So we kind of understand how Steve gets to some of the solutions and recommendations that he makes, and actually enjoy working with him in this process. We share this with you only because we're going to talk about selective parts of your project and your program requirements, and then projects that we have designed in the past that represent or show you some ideas as to how that would work. And we've chosen this path today as opposed to trying to come in and show you a concept, because at this point we don't know you well enough to assume that we know the answer to the project. So we're going to show you parts of the project that will form a whole if we're fortunate enough to be selected. Your public lobbies and event spaces, that's a big element for you. You've got a lot of traffic in this building, a lot of different users. And some of the projects that we've worked on in the past, first one was College of the Albemarle, and we created a gallery that this not only has their student union and their access to other functions within the space, they use this as fundraising and gala events. There's a balcony where this picture was taken that they set up a small orchestra, they show films, so it has a lot of multitasking that takes place, and it's created a sense of warmth in their area. Another element, this is something we're working with the Greenville Convention Center, is to create some points of interest, something that brings your eye and creates a little more festive feel within the space. And so that's another element with daylighting that we try to bring in spaces.
Your program talks about creating an identity for this project, and that's what these elements of interest we look at that piece and helping do, is creating your identity. Another, again, along the lines of the pre-event, what happens in your project is you have multiple departments and multiple users and multiple things that happen in the building. So we need space for transition to happen, and think about when big events happen, where do those people go? Where do they wait? What do they do? How maybe do they hold and have a pre-event before the large event in the assembly hall or the auditorium space? So just some ideas like that. There's multi-level facilities. We know that's a consideration here too. Lots of great connection within this pre-event. It could be a really great, wonderful space. We have experience in there. Along the lines of your assembly and auditorium, again, this goes into some of our programming mechanisms. The key things that we think about in there, again, how many people, we know that from your study right now, confirm that that number is the number. Then how do they seat, and where do those seats and tables and chairs go when they're not there when it's open? Because generally speaking, in spaces like this large auditorium, you know, it may be set up as dining for a large cooperative extension group one evening, but the next day it may be wide open for some exhibit of vendors coming in for farmers, and there could be a large group, and so there's transition that has to happen with storage and setup and support for this large space. We do a lot in the programming section. Again, we do a lot of furniture layouts to show options and how that works and how flow moves in and out of the room. So just a couple items there.
Outdoor spaces, equally important. You talk about those in your programming, the ability to have events that go from inside to out. And I think part of designing the building has to create and incorporate the ability to have seamless transition from one area to the next. So creating hardscapes, as in patios, is one aspect of it, but green lawns and tinted structures, as well as rain gardens, which we somewhat use that as stormwater as well, but we clean them up and try to make a feature out of it as opposed to a dreaded piece of the puzzle. But that's also part of the puzzle that we would have to solve in this project.
I would add, of all kinds of buildings that we do, this particular building, being that it's agricultural related and agricultural department related, has a great opportunity for the indoor-outdoor space and connection, spaces outdoors that can support events just as well as spaces indoors do.
This is what I'm most passionate about. It's getting kids outside. And as we know, each generation has less and less of a commitment to agriculture, to the outdoors in general. So we committed 20 years ago to 4 projects a year that our company does. We get the community involved. We get outreach through the Master Gardeners program to make sure that we connect kids and teachers with their community and create outdoor gardens. Sometimes we even get master chefs and food trucks to come and teach the kids how to prepare food. It's very important that the next generation understands that part of being healthy is getting that reconnection with the earth. And we're pretty excited about your project because we think that's the best opportunity it has for reaching these kids.
Some other considerations that we look at in the early design stages, again, is flexibility for your classroom space. And I know there's activity rooms within departments as well as separated classroom space. So being able to locate those spaces in a position that supports a larger assembly space or locate them within a department that the department is supported by that and can handle the people load that comes to that space is important. Again, flexibility of how rooms subdivide, how they are, there's good proportions for space for people, for seating, for lecture, for feeling a community within the space when you're gathering in a fun event, or for kids to get in there and really focus on something. So I think we want to show you these just for the idea that flexibility is one of the key things when we look at the breakout classroom, the activity space.
Office spaces throughout the building is where most of the work gets done and where most of us spend our time during the day, although we realize half the staff in this particular project may be out of the office. But daylighting is really important to a sense of wellness within the building. And as we show you these slides, as we go through them, they all have an abundance of daylight within the space, either directly or borrowed light. And so creating those spaces is important to create a healthy office environment.
In several of these, I'll add that in creating the internal department space, because we've done a lot of multiple departments within a major building, in fact, some of the lobby areas too, we look for venues, for avenues of walking in the building and seeing the light at the other end of the hall within the main space, but also within the department space. It's proven fact that daylight helps improve work efficiency, make people feel good about coming to work. The folks in the agencies that stay in the building all day need to have that opportunity to do that.
I'm going to take a little break here because I realized in my nervousness when I got started, I forgot to introduce Blair Stevenson. She is our summer intern. She's a rising junior at Virginia Tech. And she's helped us put this presentation together. And we brought her today so she can experience, as she travels her course in learning to be an architect, what this is all about, so she can see how nervous we really are.
And can I interrupt just for a moment? And I failed to do the same thing. They get to see me up here all the time. I'm Bill Payton, one of the commissioners, but I failed to allow my other folks to be able to introduce themselves so the public will know who they were. So if you'll start down here on the left, tell you.
Sure. I'm Kent Yelverton. I'm the Director of Property and Construction for the North Carolina Department of Agriculture. We're a partner in this project as well.
I'm Eddie Pitzer, and I actually work with the Wayne County Livestock Development Association here in Goldsboro.
Julian Aycock, a farmer in Wayne County.
I'm Greg Shackelford, a regional executive with Southern Bank in Mount Olive.
And I'm Kevin Johnston. I'm the Cooperative Extension Director in Wayne County.
Yeah, I thought it was important you might want to know who you're talking
Thank
to.
you. It is.
Sorry.
It always is. Well, we get really nervous when we start.
I wasn't
so.
nervous, I'm just, getting old. So if y'all move on, I appreciate it.
Sure. Laboratory space was another element of your program, and we've done quite a few of those. A couple of these are teaching labs, and then Bill's going to discuss with you a working lab that they've worked on as well.
Right, thank you. I wanted to highlight this lab here because it's kind of a special design we did. Sort of highlights how to design for flexibility, but also at a value cost. This is for Paradigm Genetics. They're world-renowned geneticists in plant science. At the time, they were kind of a startup company, and they had some contracts with Bayer and some other folks to do a lot of crop testing and so forth. And they leased a flex lab space, our flex building. It was just vacant. And they knew that their experiments had to change every 6 months, so they wanted it very flexible, but they were short of funds because they had the contract, but they didn't have the money. Used a design-build tool. We worked with them to use energy-efficient equipment, but equipment that could be bought at a reasonable price. And you will notice that the services are fed out of the ceiling. This is just before the lab was completely fit up. And I envisioned that might be valuable for you in this building, because if not, maybe you don't do experiments on 6-month basis, but technology changes and needs change. And even though they bought this space with the intention of it only being like a 1 to 2 year endeavor, they to this day, and it's probably close to 10 years now, they continue to use it because they're able to use it in a flexible manner, and we're very successful even at the lower cost.
That's not easy to do within labs.
No, it's not. It's not.
Labs are pretty specific to themselves.
Commercial kitchens or kitchens, you speak of a catering kitchen and a commercial kitchen. We're showing you, this was a teaching kitchen demonstration area, really, that in this particular kitchen setting, they not only teach culinary, but they also do a lot of demonstrations. We've done quite a few farmers markets. That's always an element we talk about in trying to create kitchen areas within them. Truthfully, the funding usually gets a little short before we can get them all implemented. But the most recent one is in Greene County. We roughed in all the mechanical systems for it, and we did the same in Vance County for theirs as well.
And in this particular picture, I'll see if I can put this.
It disappears on the picture.
There's a classroom segment back there with large screen TVs on the wall, so that there can be actually either the teacher showing what's going on with it up on the screen so the students can watch, or they can interact. It's large enough to do that. So again, some experience we have to help bring those ideas to your project. Workflow in the kitchen is very important, in teaching kitchens especially.
A significant piece for this project, we think, is creating an identity. And that was some of the highlighted elements within the project programming, that creating a sense of who we are. And we've worked with a number of clients in the past years in creating an identity. The shot that's on the wall, back up please, one, is the Golden Leaf Foundation. And when we started working with them, they wanted a process to certainly pay respect to their heritage, but also look forward to the future. And in some regards, you have some of those same elements. You have a broad spectrum of people that you are working with, not just Wayne County, Eastern North Carolina, but as the literature says, you have international guests that come as well. So the building has to one, have its own prominence within the campus of the setting, but also speak to its progressiveness and forward thinking, because the agricultural business is an economic engine that drives Eastern North Carolina. And so we all know that those elements have to be strong and represented to continue that growth. We understand that. So working with our clients, you go, to create identities. This was another that we had to, a client with a lot of warehouses, old downtown train stations, so created the image of the event center. The Roanoke Electric Co-op is in the middle of a hosky, and we, not proper, yes, out in the field, actually. And we borrowed the elements from the electrical grid, the big the structures that hold up the transmission lines to create their front entrance of the building, to create an identity. The point of all that is we don't have a set style. Our clients, we take that from our clients after interviewing and talking, is what that feels like. And part of this programming information, while this is great, black and white, hard information, part of understanding how to design a building is getting the enthusiasm or the feel from the users. And so that helps bring the character of the building to life. Outdoor pavilions. I mentioned we've done quite a few farmers markets, and we've done open air farmers markets, closed farmers markets, and the activities that go on that give it a multitasking use, whether they're selling vegetables on Saturday morning or they're doing oyster roast for the civics, some local club within the space. Bill is going to talk to you about some of the greenhouses that he's worked on. I don't know what you're growing in them.
Well, these are two, well, the one on the left at the bottom is at NC State, a transgenic greenhouse and head house that we designed on Centennial campus. And it's state-of-the-art. The tolerances with humidity and temperature and so forth are very strict for their research, and they count on that with their. The one on the right is the one that I'm kind of fond of. That's at Alamance Community College, and you can see their greenhouses from I-40 if you're ever traveling that way, kind of near Burlington, particularly in the fall when the leaves have fallen. And they teach community college students horticulture and those types of life sciences. And their greenhouses are not quite as fancy as NC State's, I'll be honest. And they lose their specimens every year during the winter and so forth because they just can't maintain the tolerances. This one, again, with a tight budget, they did some self-performing of constructing the greenhouse, but they also got a grant to do some net zero work. And quite frankly, from my vantage point, it seemed like they were doing it just so that they could keep the greenhouse alive during the winter. But what they really did is they did something very sustainable. They had a packaged solar system with a generator, some automatic transfer. We used some very high efficient boilers to keep the solar panel down, to keep the costs down, so you kind of start to balance the sustainability with what's reasonable and what can pay back. And it's just a neat greenhouse. It's not the biggest or fanciest thing in the world, but it's net zero, and it's very special to that college. And so we're proud to have worked on that.
Just a few other photos with outdoor pavilions. The sketch that you see on the bottom is a project that's under construction right now for us, and we wanted to pay particular attention. It's agribusiness. Eggland's Best, Braswell Milling in Nashville, we created a new corporate headquarters. So we have a lot of some components with the activity, the training rooms for the staff. So large room, small office, access within, secure access within. But one of the key things that they wanted to add for their staff members specifically was this outdoor pavilion for some outdoor training, some nice space that could be on their campus for their corporate office. So just another, again, some other new projects that we are under construction with right now.
I wanted to demonstrate our sustainability as well. This is Blue Cross Blue Shield in Durham, and believe it or not, this courtyard is actually the conveyance of stormwater management as well. And you can see the use of different materials is how we convey the stormwater. And we're able to use the client is able to use that entire area for outdoor use. This is Golden Belt. This is actually repurposing an old tobacco warehouse, and how we've been able to use as much very, very efficient space to be able to create wonderful, warm outdoor spaces. And finally, this is NC State, and this is on the College of Vet Medicine campus. And for us, it's very, very important for us to be able to transfer some of those rural and agricultural qualities to every design that we do. So wherever we work on that campus, we try to make sure and mimic some of those things that we've learned from that site.
Daylight, which Tim and Ann mentioned earlier, you'll find pretty common in most of our designs, access and sight lines to daylight for the outside. It just makes for a much more comfortable interior environment. We'll work it in larger expanses, or in this environment here, it's kind of a borrowed light to get it on further deeper into the interior so you can share that access to interior spaces and offices.
You've asked for buildings to be technologically advanced, and we call that smart buildings. And smart buildings is not just the use of data or thermostats that are intelligent, but the entire design of the facility. Where we as a practice, everybody talks about green, everybody wants green, and we understand that. And when we practice we have a green practice, but a lot of that's being practical, knowing what works and what works at an affordable rate and gives you a reasonable return. And again, our practice primarily in Eastern North Carolina, while we certainly have sophisticated systems, we've got to be able to design systems that can be maintained by the local mechanics within the area. So all of these buildings we're showing you are high-performing buildings, either LEED certified or silver or just Energy Star. Each one of these is has aspects of smart buildings, and this one on the bottom is a current community college project that we're working on. It's 80,000 square feet and it's performing with 30% efficiency over ASHRAE standards, and ended up and it's under construction now. It's $155 a square foot, has a lot of the same elements that we're talking about in your facility. So we know how to design it and get it built with a reasonable budget. Also had 400 parking spaces. The part of your request was delivery methods, whether it be a design bid build, or design bridging documents. We have experience with all the different delivery methods, whether it be CM at risk, hard bid, or low dollar bid. And that would be the one that I say if we go that route, we do pre-qualification of our contractors. That's paramount in today's market, that we make sure they're qualified to do the work. And then we also are doing a public design build with TA Loving right now, and it's our first public design build, and it's going quite well as a project. So we're comfortable with each and every method that's out there that's available as a public entity. And even the Golden Leaf Foundation was a selection process of a contract, a modified CM, if you would, where interviews of contractors were selected, then negotiated the final cost of the building. So we're comfortable with all different aspects of project delivery. And we'd like to save this slide for our closing, and I have one more faux pas to confess to. When I introduced Ms. Stevenson, I introduced her as her sister, Blair. Her mother works with us, actually, and so her name is Hunter. And so, forgive me, please. It's nerves again. Sorry, we'd love to answer questions.
That's why I let them introduce themselves.
I understand. We'd love to answer any questions you might have.
Questions?
I maybe have a couple of questions, Ms. Oakley. In your correspondence with building the Operations Center for Southern Bank in Rocky Mountain, or architectural design with that, who was your correspondence there? With whom did you correspond with?
Mike Bryant.
Michael Bryant.
Mike Bryant. Michael Bryant, Sandy McCartney, and Sandra McCorkadell.
Thank you. Next question I have for Ms. Hill. You stated that
you had done quite a bit of work with schools in the state, 5 specifically in Wayne County.
Yes.
Would you share those, or one or two of those with us?
Yes, and I think we completed them a year and a half ago or so. Brogdon, Greenwood, Mount Olive. Now I'm old, so I'm going to try to remember. Eastern Wayne.
You're doing well.
And one more. Norwayne.
Norwayne.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Talk to me a little bit about your budget control, your cost estimating. What would your approach be for cost control and cost estimating through the various design phases?
We actually, at each step of the phase, schematic, design, development, CDs, we go through and do line item review of the components within the building. And that's one of the things that with the BIM project, the BIM modeling, it generates an actual list of components within the structure. So from that list, we do takeoffs, if you will, of all the components internally in our office, as well as our consultants. Then we export it to a contractor, ones that we have worked with, to get a second opinion as to, is that number, are we in the ballpark, are we right? So that, end of the day, we have put together a budget that we feel, based on historic information and some marketing checks, that's accurate. Then, depending on the scope and complexity of the project, we have in the past also hired third-party estimating services to go over it and estimate it. We feel strongly that the day that we give you the CD documents and we release it for bid, that estimate needs to be correct. Now, we realize we aren't the ones driving nails and putting pieces together, but we need to be reasonably in that 3 to 4% range of what the real number is.
I have a question. And you mentioned contractors, you mentioned TA11. What other Eastern North Carolina contractors have you worked with?
Barnhill
There's a
Contracting.
possibility.
Yeah.
in my thoughts.
Barnhill Contracting, Clancy Fays, A.R. Chesson, Daniels and Daniels, Farrier and Sons. Help me out, I always draw a blank.
There's a myriad of levels of contractors that we use. Some do only smaller projects, and those are fairly local to us. But then the ones you mentioned, then several, we do a lot of bid work also. So we have, we're actually working on a job right now with a team, joint venture team of Bordeaux Construction and W.M. Jordan. W.M. Jordan's out of Virginia, but Bordeaux is Raleigh, and they've teamed together to do that. Very good process for that one.
Shellco, quite a lot. We typically have a very strong following of contractors in that we try to make sure our documents are clear and concise. So as Frankie would say, it's not only the content, it is the intent, and everyone understands what you're supposed to do.
My thoughts were just it'd be more cost effective to have someone, closer to the project than somebody, New York City or wherever.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
That was my reason I was asking this question.
I would say 98% of the work we do, the contractors are a North Carolina firm. The joint venture that Ann speaks of with W.M. Jordan in Bordeaux, Bordeaux is the lead out of Durham, and they tag to W.M. Jordan for their management skill.
That's actually a Wilmington office.
They're out of the Wilmington? Okay.
Okay.
But their headquarters is Virginia.
I have one other question. I see that you worked on the Bob Martin Agriculture Center.
Yes, sir.
Is that or do you have additional ag center experience, or did you say that and I just missed it?
We've done farmers markets.
Yeah.
We did do the E or F, which one? The
Barn unit.
barn unit? You remember, Ken?
No.
One of the barn units there, and the others are the farmers markets. A number of years ago, we did the Eastern Carolina Ag Center design, preliminary design, and that was actually an interesting project in that we brought in Stan Gralla as a consultant for the project from the animal aspect of it and understanding what needed to happen there. I'm always drawing a blank. You know,
Bill's got some Chowan County.
Chowan,
Our team.
okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Anything? Yeah, I was going to ask if my fellow commissioners might have a question out there.
Yes,
Mr. Mayo, will you come up to the microphone, please?
By the way, he's our facilities chair too, so just let you know.
Yes, as Facilities Committee Chairman, I just have a question. I'm looking at your slide on the daylighting, and I just had a question. I see in this picture, there's a lot of windows and so forth, and I have two questions. One is, how does this affect the efficiency of utilities? And number two is that our experience at building the Stillwell Memorial Library down in Mount Olive, I want to know if you've used solar tubes for the lighting applications, which we know cuts back on utility costs.
We have used solar tubes in projects. The glass that we use in these projects is a high-performance glass and glazing, but we also selectively place it depending on site orientation of the building so that we don't get direct west sun or bright early morning sun. This is a northern wall, so we've got a lot of reflective light, barred light. From a performance-wise, these are all the highest level of insulating glass that we can get, and they're thermally broken frames. So there is some trade-off. It's not as energy efficient as a wall. But we've made some compromises, if you will, in other areas to compensate for this.
Well, we sort of moved away from this concept as far as a roof, a glass roof at the Stillwell Memorial Library, because of the maintenance involved.
Oh, I understand.
Okay, and so I'm just wondering if solar tubes might be an alternative where you might even cut this area in half, you know, to save overall.
It certainly could. We typically will try to minimize or not have any penetrations through our roof. So for the obvious reasons of having to deal with leaks down the road. And all of these windows are in a vertical plane on the face of the building.
Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate
Yes,
it.
sir. Yes, sir.
Tim, I might could add a little something about that picture, because we had some,
Come over to the mic.
Get me front and center.
Sorry, are you looking at the one with all the fins on it? Yes. Okay, well, maybe that's not the one I thought, but sort of the same thing. If you have a single-story building, solar tubes work great because you've got a roof to work with. If you can get past negotiate the leaking concerns and so forth. Sometimes the buildings are multi-story and you have a learning or teaching environment where you want to get the daylight in deep. You have to do something on the horizontal face, you know, on the first or second floor. If you've got the picture I thought you were looking at was a 4-story building we did. And it is an investment for those fins and baffles to direct the daylighting. We typically do life cycle cost analysis to see if it can pay back. So each situation is a little different. I think your program probably is going to call for a single-story building. It isn't. It's about 55,000 square feet. It might be 2-story. So I think the second floor, the solar tubes would be great. The first floor, daylighting's a significant concern, then you might want to, you just need to do something that works and can pay for itself, not just to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Darby, you don't have a question?
I don't have a question.
Are you feeling sick today? Any other questions, folks? Any closing remarks?
Well, our final closing would be, we're extremely excited about the possibilities for this project and would love to be the firm that's selected. We, as a group of designers, really enjoy what we do, and that enthusiasm translates into our drawings and our execution of the project. Again, the people that we've presented today, we are the team that would execute the work. We have a vast amount of experience in all the different elements of this project. And to borrow kind of a phrase, it's somewhat like eating an elephant. We do it a bite at a time, but at the end of the day, we get it all done to meet and exceed your expectations, and we certainly thank you for your time today.
We want to thank you for an excellent presentation, and I'm not sure that we'll have a decision by the end of this day, but it will be very, very quickly done.
Thank you.
And we'll let you know. Thank you so much. Folks, we're going to take about a 10-minute break because I got to change the